Last night was a Texas primary runoffs. The Republicans had a mixed night. What is up, people of the internet? It is me, Real American, back again with a new video, and today it is time to do a post-mortem of last night's Texas runoffs because last night was a very mixed night up and down the ballot for conservatives in Texas. And yes, there were some victories here and there that are pretty big. Let's be clear, there are some big victories here. The problem is, some of the defeats we suffered last night should have been avoided. And these defeats that we did suffer were not some random down-ballot race. No. These were some of the most critical races of last night. Now, before we continue with today's video, I hope you enjoy these type of videos. If you do, smash the like button down below, subscribe, share with your friends, hit that little bell, follow the social media accounts in the description down below, and of course, join the channel today. Again, folks, all support is greatly appreciated, and yeah. Now, let us get into it, because last night was a very mixed night overall, but there were some positives, and I do want to talk about those first, because these are significant victories. These are not just, some random races that, yeah, we won, but it doesn't really matter. No. We did get some major victories in the State House, and for those that don't know, the Texas State House might have the most rhinos of any state legislator. You think states like Utah and Oklahoma have some bad rhinos? Well, somehow, the Texas legislator might be the most rhino-filled legislator of any state. It is that bad. Quite frankly, it's a miracle Democrats haven't taken over Texas by now. The fact that the legislator's that rhino-friendly is insane. But luckily, a bunch of the incumbents did go down in flames, and every single one that did lose last night, they were rhinos. And they were replaced by very conservative alternatives. I mean, look at this. There were 6 Republican incumbents that lost. And every single one of them voted for Paxton's impeachment. I think all of them voted against school choice. Essentially, these are the definition of rhinos. Well, they all went down in flames. This doesn't include in the primary when a bunch of others went down. So, at least in the State House, Republicans had an excellent night. This was not a bad night everywhere. In the State House, at least, it was a good night for Republicans because we actually got conservatives, and now we have the votes to pass conservative legislation in the State House, which has been the problem this entire time. We have a decent state Senate, but the State House, for whatever reason, might be the single worst legislator in the entire country for Republicans. Either way, that was it. That's where the positives ended for Republicans. And these are significant victories, let's be clear. Just because it's down ballot, it doesn't mean it doesn't matter. It does matter because now conservatives actually have a majority in Texas. But sadly, this is where the positives ended because the races that everyone talked about last night, they were all L's. Not a single one of them the conservative candidate won. And of course, let us start in the State House with arguably the most important race of the night, at least in the State Assembly. Dade Failen, the rhino Speaker of the House, won. He won by about 370 votes. Now, David Covey did get the Trump endorsement, so you cannot blame Trump here, but we'll get to the other races in a second because I have some criticism of Trump here. But either way, Dade Failen won by about 350 votes, or 370, between that range. Here's the thing, though. Take a guess how Dade Failen won. A bunch of Democrats voted for him. We know this for a fact. The David Covey campaign has proof that, hey, over 1,000 Democrats voted in this race. Now, this is Texas. You might be saying, well, maybe these are a bunch of dinos. Democrats in name only. They're the ones that voted for Trump. Maybe that's who they are. And there might be some legitimacy to that claim. I'm not denying that. This is Eastern Texas. This is the part of the state that, Gore did pretty well in, but then Trump did well in. These are the voters that exist here. I understand that argument. The problem is, however, Dade Failen targeted partisan Democrats, and apparently that's who voted. These were not just, Democrats from 30 years ago that voted for Gore or something. No. These are partisan Democrats to this day. And he targeted them because guess what? Dave Failen is effectively a Democrat. And he won. He won because of the Democrats that voted in the primary. We know for a fact that's what happened here. He won by, let's just say, 400 votes. And about 1,000 Democrats at the bare minimum voted. Do some basic math. Dave Failen did not need to win Republicans. He had to win some, of course, but the reason he won was because Democrats voted for him. That is pathetic. This is another reason that we need closed primaries ASAP. We cannot keep allowing Democrats, especially in Republican seats like this, to keep voting in the Republican primaries. The same thing occurred in Indiana. And because of that, there were so many good potential congressmen we lost. And in this district, David Covey would have won if it weren't for Democrats voting. So I hope Texas realizes we need closed primaries, or hell, just have a convention system like Virginia. So actual conservatives can throw out people like Dave Failen. You gotta change the system because it is getting ridiculous. But this was really the only L in the state house. I mean, for crying out loud, I think we took out like a total of 15 Paxton impeachers in, this entire cycle. That's pretty damn good. I'll take that. So even if Dave Failen returns as speaker next year, which is possible, he might get thrown out, but we just gotta see, his influence is way less than it was just a year ago. So it was a good night in the state house. But this is where things start to get pretty bad. Starting with Texas 12th. This was one of the first competitive congressional primaries. Now, O'Shea was not the favorite. In fact, I always thought that Goldman was going to win. And that's what happened. O'Shea lost by about 25 points. And O'Shea is the MAGA candidate. He was a candidate that Trump should have supported. I don't understand what Trump is doing here. Craig Goldman is a Paxton impeacher. He is not a good candidate. Now, is he better than Kay Granger? Maybe. That's not really saying much, though. This is a district that you should have someone like John O'Shea representing. And for whatever reason, Trump decided not to take the risk. And instead just ignored the race. You could have endorsed John O'Shea and given him some kind of chance. Because what happened was he got outspent like 30-1. And that's why he lost by 25 points. If Trump endorsed O'Shea, maybe, just maybe, he could have had a better chance at winning. But nope, we get yet another rhino in a deep red seat. Again, it is an upgrade over Granger, but that's not really saying much. Now, could he potentially be better in Congress? Maybe. There is a possibility that he's fearful of Trump and he decides to actually have a good voting record. That's possible. But John O'Shea was clearly the best option here. And Republicans in the district decided to vote for Goldman. Now, before we move on, notice something fascinating about the turnout. Only 26,000 people voted. In State House 21, which is Dave Failen's seat, 25,000 people voted. So you're going to tell me with a straight face that more Republicans showed up to a state house race than a congressional one. Or almost. Despite state house districts having way less people. What does that tell you? That tells you a bunch of Democrats probably voted. Because how does a state house race, which I know, this is a pretty big one. This is a race that everyone was paying attention to. But either way, how can a state house race have nearly more votes than a congressional one? The only explanation is a bunch of Democrats voted in the Republican primary. That's what happened here. And people gotta realize that's why Failen and others won. If it wasn't for Democrats, Failen would have lost. This just alone should tell you, yeah, a bunch of Democrats decided to save Failen. But either way, there is one more race that occurred last night that everyone was watching. And this might be the most painful. Texas 23rd. Listen, I obviously support Trump, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to criticize him when it makes sense. And this is one of those times when, yeah, I'm going to criticize Trump. Listen, the 12th district, you could argue, fine. O'Shea was down by 25. The Trump endorsement could have maybe helped them. Let's just say, a 20-point swing for Trump's endorsement. Fine. That might not be enough. Whatever. This is not the race I'm pissed off about. It's this one. Texas 23rd. So, what the hell is Trump doing here? This was a golden opportunity to get rid of Tony Gonzalez. You had him. Brandon Herrera, who, by the way, everyone was saying was an terminally online candidate, nearly won. He lost by 1.5 points. If Trump would have endorsed him, Tony Gonzalez would have been gone. Instead, Trump said nothing about the race. But instead, he endorses a challenger to Bob Good, who, by the way, you can say Bob Good did some dumb stuff, whatever. But you're going to endorse a challenger to Bob Good, who, by the way, is the challenger to Bob Good is a rhino. He's a downgrade from Good. But you refuse to endorse an upgrade over Gonzalez? Really? What are you doing? I understand that, some races you don't want to endorse them because you don't know. Like the O'Shea race. It's, whatever. But Texas 23rd, this was a gimme. If Trump would have endorsed Herrera, even at the last second, he probably would have won. Now, you cannot blame Trump 100%. Fine. You could say, well, there was bad weather in some parts of the district. Maybe that saved Gonzalez. Fine. But even with that in mind, if Trump would have endorsed him, Gonzalez would have lost. This is 95% on Trump. 5% on the weather. Fine. Now, Brandon Herrera did say some dumb stuff. Whatever. He said some stuff about Barron Trump, but either way, it was a joke. It was taken out of context, but apparently, some bozo in Trump world showed him the out of context clip, and that's why he did not endorse him. And frankly, I don't care about, the clip anyways. Tony Gonzalez is one of the most egregious rhinos in Congress. For crying out loud, he represents a border district, but is pro-amnesty, is anti-gun in Texas. This is not a random district, no. This is a Republican seat in southern Texas, or at least on the border with Mexico. And for whatever reason, Trump endorsed against Bob Good, but saved Tony Gonzalez indirectly. I'm not trying to bash Trump because I want to bash him, no. The fact is, I want Trump to make smart decisions so he doesn't have to deal with assholes like Gonzalez in a second term. Because now, Tony Gonzalez, he's going to be awful for 2 years at the bare minimum. And frankly, this was your chance to take him down. His unpopularity reached record highs. This was it. But instead, you wasted that endorsement on John McGuire to take out Bob Good. Who, by the way, McGuire might not even win. So what the hell are we doing here? Seriously, what? What's the point of endorsing challengers to Bob Good, but not endorsing a challenger to Tony Gonzalez? Because it's apparent that Gonzalez would have went down. Trump not endorsing against him caused him to win. This is on Trump. 95% on Trump, 5% on the weather. Either way, there were some victories in Texas, but this could have been one of the best election nights we could have had in years. But for whatever reason, Trump decided to save Gonzalez. But either way, we did get some victories, I guess. It wasn't an awful night, but it could have been so much better. Anyways, folks, thank you so much for watching. If you guys did enjoy this video, smash the like button down below, subscribe, share with your friends, hit that little bell, follow the social media accounts in the description down below, and of course, join the channel today. Godspeed to all of you.